Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description. Hey friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
So with Sasha Banks and Charlotte making history as the first women to step inside Hell in a Cell, we figured we'd look back at the best matches that took place inside the infamous structure.
And keep an eye out for our list of worst Hell in a Cell matches coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, but until then, here are the 10 best Hell in a Cell matches. Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. When the game Triple H and his BFF Shawn Michaels stepped inside Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood 2004, pretty much everybody knew they'd bring the house down.
The founding fathers of D-Generation X had waged a war off and on since HBK's in-ring return to WWE in 2002 and had some amazing matches to show for it.
As usual, the game played monster heel to HBK's babyface. By this point, Michaels was over huge with the crowd, having revitalized his in-ring career after a back injury forced an early retirement in 1998.
After the two competed in a thrilling triple threat match with Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20 a few months prior, the stakes were raised for a blow-off match in the only structure that could elevate the drama even more.
Shark Cage match!
No, Hell in a Cell.
Oh, right. It's a solid match that focuses less on the high spots the Cell had become synonymous with, and more on storytelling. And it's a long match, clocking in at just under 50 minutes.
And not only was the match in Hell in a Cell, they brought tables and ladders inside. They put on an incredible show that built to a brutal climax, which saw HBK jumping from the ladder to deliver his signature elbow, and as cool as that was, Triple H's low blow and pedigrees proved more effective.
It was a long journey, but the dramatic ending, with both men literally rendered immobile, save for one final pedigree from the game, delivered a huge payoff.
And Triple H wore white boots. Very dramatic.
Yeah, he bled a lot too, which is very dramatic.
Yeah, with those white boots.
Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. WWE's hottest storyline in 2014 was, without question, the Shield breakup saga. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins spent the better part of the summer and early fall beating the crap out of each other in a variety of matches, and the stage was set for their feud to reach a climax.
Dean was extra motivated because Rollins curb stomped his head through a cinder block not long before this. I missed the curb stomp.
Yeah, me too. The WWE even brought in Mick Foley to help promote the feud, because anytime there's Hell in a Cell, Mick Foley has to be there. So it isn't hard to see where the Lunatic Fringe took his inspiration from in starting out the match climbing to the top of the cell.
And as usual, Rollins played his authority card, bringing in J&J security for added insurance and sending them up to chase after Dean, and Corporate Kane used a fire extinguisher on the Lunatic Fringe. It's kind of ironic because he's like a fire-based HR guy.
Of course, it wouldn't be Hell in a Cell without a big fall. And yeah, it was kind of funny that the production crew had cut extra big conspicuous holes in the cell that were obviously meant to help climbing, but when the former Shield allies launched off the side, it did look pretty cool.
Both combatants would be put on gurneys, only to see Ambrose fight off his and force Seth back in the ring so the match could officially start, because at that point, the bell hadn't even rung.
Yeah, it was pure carnage. Table spots, chair shots, Seth's Money in the Bank briefcase came into play, and yeah, a few more cinder blocks for good measure.
Sadly though, it was all brought to an awkward ending. Just when Dean looked to have victory in his grasp, a fucking hologram of Bray Wyatt appeared before the Eater of Worlds himself attacked Ambrose, giving Seth the easy win.
It was a laughably bad ending, but the match itself up to that point was great. On the other hand, if they had used a Tupac hologram, that'd be really cool and very confusing.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. Batista versus Triple H. Fighting amongst the ashes of Evolution, Triple H and Batista met in Hell in a Cell at Vengeance 2005 to fight over the World Heavyweight Championship in what would be the epic blow-off match for the feud that would propel Batista to the main event.
This was the Animal's first time in the structure, whereas the game had won all 5 fights he had previously had in Hell in a Cell.
It was also the last of the 3 matches these two had over the world title, the first of which was a so-so match at WrestleMania, after the big man won the Royal Rumble and opted to challenge his mentor for the title, as opposed to facing off against JBL for the SmackDown-specific WWE title. After winning the World Championship at Mania, Batista successfully defended at Backlash, which led to their last match in the Cell. Did you get all that?
Yeah. The two former friendos clashed with pedigrees, Batista bombs, and spine busters before a variety of weapons were added to the equation.
Along with his trusty sledgehammer, Triple H used a chain to bust the animal in his chops. The fun bit was the chair wrapped in barbed wire.
In the end, though, Batista surprised many by handing Triple H his 3rd loss in their series and showing that he was on Raw to stay. This lasted for like a day, and he would be drafted to SmackDown the night after.
Yeah, it was still pretty awesome though, because Triple H showed that he could use his powers for good and not bury.
That's Triple H's signature move though.
Yeah.
Bury.
Yeah, but this time he scored the ultra rare Elevate.
Put over.
Yeah. Triple H versus Cactus Jack. Mick Foley's full-time WWE career came to an end with this match at No Way Out 2000, and it was fitting that it came against one of his biggest rivals in the company, Terrorizing.
But just like his entrance music proclaims, it was Triple H's time as he put his world title on the line in territory traditionally reserved for the hardcore legend.
For this encounter, Mick went back to his hardcore roots, channeling his time fighting in Japanese death matches and brutal encounters with the likes of Vader in WCW. So of course, this meant the return of Cactus Jack.
Which also meant the two longtime rivals pulled out all the stops. They put on a great match that saw them fighting in and on top of the cell with a number of high-impact spots.
The most memorable of those spots involved Foley hitting Triple H with a flaming 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. Oh my God!
In what many saw as a tribute to Mick's legendary first Hell in a Cell match 2 years earlier, Triple H reversed a pile driver and sent Cactus Jack through the top of the cage and into the ring itself, leading to the champ securing his victory.
As if the game didn't have enough heel heat, he retired Mick Foley that night, making him even more hated by the fans, which was another reason why there were no heels quite like Triple H.
Of course, Foley would receive a huge standing ovation that night as he walked up the ramp for the last time, until less than 2 months later, when he came back for WrestleMania.
Yeah, and then he came back a bunch of times after that. And then he wrestled for TNA for 3 years. Not really retirement. Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker. Okay, so now we're officially in Undertaker territory. He's in like every single one of these entries.
The dead man may have made Hell in a Cell his playground, but after Brock Lesnar ended his WrestleMania streak and was evidently imbued with the powers of the darkness, Undertaker started going for low blows and dick punches to win matches.
Which is why this feud for the duo had to end in a contest with no rules, where the Phenom stated that he had nothing else to lose.
This bout from Hell in a Cell 2015 is arguably the best of their matches, and in some ways is a redo of their Cell match from No Mercy 2002.
I'd say this one was better though, and the WWE agrees with us, because this match won a Slammy that year. Like that means something.
If nothing else, this match certainly was the most vicious. Both combatants bled like stuck pigs, and both men also made good use of chairs, steel stairs. Hell, they even ripped up the ring, using the exposed parts of ring to destroy each other.
Yeah, but in the end, the Beast claimed another victim as he hit Taker with a low blow to the balls and another devastating F5 before getting the pinfall.
The story continued afterwards, though, as Taker would receive a standing ovation, only to be jumped and claimed by the Wyatt family.
Yeah, Bray had him carried off backstage, presumably for a visit to the compound for homemade gumbo and campfire sing-along time.
I think the storyline said he stole Undertaker's powers.
Yeah, that too. That was after the gumbo though. Undertaker versus Edge! So back when Edge and Vicky Guerrero were a married couple, having the same marital problems many fake on-screen couples go through, a match was made between Edge and Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. Why? Who cares? It was a great match.
It was because Edge had Taker exiled after a TLC match, and then Vicky used her powers as the GM to bring him back to exact her revenge.
I don't really care. All that Vicky Guerrero Cougar stuff was just embarrassing. Look, she was great as a heel. It's just all that storyline crap I didn't really care about.
Regardless of Steve's level of giving a shit, the rated R superstar vowed to take his wife and the dead man straight to hell that night, but it didn't quite work out how he planned.
The Undertaker started the match on the offense, but both men eventually made good use of the steel stabs and other weapons. One of the most memorable moments happened when Edge speared Taker through the side panel of the structure, dumping them out near the announce tables.
Like some WWE 2K shit. Edge at one point even attempted to steal his opponent's signature old school move, but the real fun happened after the pinfall.
Yeah, as the dead man was leaving the cell, he noticed Edge move on the Titantron and decided he wasn't finished. Taker went back in and used a ladder to chokeslam Edge through the ring. And to add insult to injury, the hole that the Canadian superstar made was then set on fire by the powers of darkness.
The Undertaker literally killed Edge!
Yeah.
You don't see that too often.
No, you don't.
He didn't kill Edge because he's on a TV show, movie now.
Yeah, he's on Haven.
Well, no, Haven got canceled. He's
Did?
Yeah, he's only in movies.
Oh man, I gotta catch up on Haven so I can watch the end. Kurt Angle versus Rikishi versus The Rock versus The Undertaker versus Steve Austin versus Triple H. Alright, so on paper, yeah, this looks like the biggest clusterfuck possible, but surprisingly, it was actually a really good match.
6 superstars, all with loosely intertwining narratives, would meet at a Hell in a Cell match at Armageddon 2000 to battle for the WWF Championship.
The match was insane from the start, with photographers getting in the way, wrestlers fighting on top of junk cars, and Vince trying to tear down the cage and stop the event with his own flatbed construction truck.
Plenty of participants took some nasty bumps, but the most memorable one came as a result of The Undertaker and Rikishi, of all people, climbing to the top of the cage.
Of all the WWE superstars in history, Rikishi, I think, would be like the least likely guy to be able to scale a cage.
The master of that ass-to-mouth finisher was tossed from atop the cell like a sack of potatoes, but luckily he landed in the bed of a conveniently placed truck.
Say what you will about the gimmicky nature of that spot, it does take balls for a big man like Rikishi to agree to do a stunt like that. After some blood was shed and the field was narrowed, Angle managed to sneak in a pin to retain his title after the others did most of the work. But Steve Austin made sure he took a stunner for his troubles and sent the crowd home happy.
It was pure chaos, and hard not to see why the company generally stayed away from multi-man Hell in a Cell matches since then, because so much could have gone wrong. But it was entertaining as hell.
Rikishi's big old butt flying from the top of that cell was pretty good. HBK versus Undertaker!
This was a spectacular match with 2 elite superstars who had a blank canvas to create something awesome for In Your House Bad Blood. A match that would later be classified as one of the key events that kicked off the Attitude Era.
Who knows if they planned for Hell in a Cell to become a regular staple in the company at the time, but the Phenom and HBK certainly made a damn good case for that to happen.
As with most subsequent Hell in a Cell matches, weapons were involved, and the two left the cell after HBK attacked the cameraman, which led to Michaels going through the announce table, all to make sure the crowd's thirst for bad blood was met.
I think you're supposed to say bad blood.
Bad blood.
Yeah. And of course, the match is also memorable for featuring the debut of Kane, whose interference would assure the Showstoppers victory and set fans abuzz over the action and potential storylines.
As a sad footnote to the match, the Bad Blood pay-per-view took place on the day that Brian Pillman was found dead in his hotel room.
Yeah, but in a happier footnote, it was the last pay-per-view to see Vince McMahon leading the broadcast team, because he was not very good. Mankind versus Undertaker! We may get some heat for this not being #1 Larson, and rightfully so. This clash has been called the best of its kind by some, and regardless, it is undoubtedly the most well-known Hell in a Cell match. Hell, it may be the most iconic match of the Attitude Era, or any era for that matter.
That's true. Mankind and Undertaker broke new ground with this match and raised an impossibly high bar, even from the participants' viewpoint, and it set some good and bad precedents for the future.
Taker and Mankind have been feuding off and on for some time, and a blow-off match seemed to be the perfect place for the third ever Hell in a Cell. No one really talks about the second one that took place 2 weeks earlier on Raw between the tag teams of Undertaker and Stone Cold versus Kane and Mankind. So, the stage was set.
Following up on a joke he made to Terry Funk about starting the match on top of the cell, Mankind immediately climbed the structure and made his way to the top before Undertaker's music even hit.
Taker came out, scaled the cell, and, granting Foley's wish, tossed the hardcore legend off the top and onto the Spanish announce table. By God! Foley would climb back up, only to be sent down again, this time through the top of the cage, a spot that wasn't actually supposed to even happen, but the top of the cage was seemingly reinforced with like Scotch tape.
Throwing some thumbtacks, a loose tooth, and a series of brutal moves to end the fight, and Mick Foley would be cemented as the hardcore legend to the masses, even if he lost the match.
Yeah, Mick has often said that there is no way this match would fly in the current WWE, and that Vince thanked him for what he had done, but asked him to never do anything like it again.
And it's hard to disagree. Even Foley said he would have died had he not taken the chokeslam incorrectly.
At this point, though, I'm pretty sure Mick Foley can't die. I mean, he kind of looks the exact same now as he did back then.
That's thanks to DDP Yoga.
Yeah, it is. Triple H versus Undertaker! In a match that everyone saw coming since their previous encounter a year earlier, the Game and the Dead Man would tussle for the third time at WrestleMania, this time at WrestleMania 28. But this time, it'd be settled in the Devil's Playground.
The build-up for this showcase was expertly executed, with a more corporate-leaning Triple H not wanting to be the one that put the final nail in the streak. But like Marty McFly, all it took was calling him a coward to have the Game demanding for it to be in a cell and called for the end of an era. In an attempt to recapture the feel and vibe of the Attitude Era, though, Shawn Michaels is brought in, first as the voice of reason for Triple H, then as the special guest referee and vital tool for the match, and he made quite the impact in the half-hour onslaught these two visited upon each other. Remember, HBK had been retired by Taker 2 years prior at WrestleMania, so his involvement added another story element. Jim Ross joined JBL and Michael Cole to call this epic story in the steel structure, as his familiar tone added to the tale of all three men told in the cell. Three of the best performers in the sport's history showed why their names were at the top for so long.
Sun Life Stadium in Miami saw a brutal exhibition and witnessed the streak reach 20-0. But the real spectacle was at the end, a touching moment that encompassed years of passion and hard work, as Michaels and Undertaker helped to warn Triple H up the long ramp home, even pausing to embrace and a hug.
What made it the end of an era? We both believe this should have been Taker's final match, keeping his streak intact and untouchable, but regardless, even though the WWE may be stacked with talent today, the weight of history these men brought to the Hell in a Cell that night was something that simply can't be replicated. It was simply everything great about the art of professional wrestling.
So those are the best Hell in a Cell matches we can come up with. Be sure to check out tomorrow's video on the 10 worst Hell in a Cell matches.
Yes.
And let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.